Don't come for Christmas. Your daughter is too noisy. We just can't deal with her. My mother said it so casually, pouring herself another glass of wine as if she hadn't just broken my heart. My 9-year-old daughter looked up at me confused. She wasn't wild or rude. She was just a little girl who laughed loudly when she was happy. My father didn't even hesitate. Honestly, he said, Christmas will be better without the two of you. For a moment I couldn't speak. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I simply reached for my daughter's hand and whispered, "Come on, sweetheart. Let's go." She stayed quiet the entire walk to the car. The tears didn't come until I started the engine. My name is Rachel, and that was the day everything changed. The old me would have apologized. I would have begged for another chance and convinced myself it was all a misunderstanding. But I was done. For 4 years I had quietly paid my sister Danielle's mortgage, $8,000 every month, because my parents always said she was struggling while I was the strong one. So I respected their decision. I didn't come for Christmas. And just as quietly I canceled the automatic mortgage payments. No warning. No phone call. No explanation. On Christmas morning my phone buzzed nonstop as the family group chat filled with panic. I simply poured myself another cup of coffee and watched my daughter happily unwrap the camera I'd bought her. She smiled more that morning than she had in weeks. We had spent Christmas Eve baking cookies, watching old movies, and dancing around the living room in our pajamas. For the first time in years, Christmas actually felt peaceful. Around noon, Danielle finally texted, "Hey, the mortgage payment didn't go through. Is your bank having problems?" A few minutes later, another message appeared. "Please call me. We can talk after the holidays." I ignored both. Later, my mother left a voicemail. "Rachel, whatever this is, now isn't the time. Danielle is already under so much stress. Don't punish her over a misunderstanding." A misunderstanding? Not quite. Danielle hadn't worked in years. She lived in a beautiful 3-bedroom townhouse with a yard, pool access, and even a dog spa. Every payment came from my bank account. Whenever I questioned it, my mother always gave the same answer. "You're successful, Rachel. Danielle is more sensitive. She needs your help." I believed those words for years. Until they decided there wasn't enough room at Christmas for my daughter. That evening my bank confirmed what I already knew. The payment account had been permanently closed. I smiled, opened the family group chat, and sent only 4 words. "Let's discuss ownership." The next morning, chaos erupted. My brother-in-law messaged first. "Rachel, did you really stop paying the mortgage? We can't cover it. The bank is already warning us. Please call." Minutes later my mother joined in. "This isn't like you. Be the bigger person and help your family, especially during Christmas." I left every message unread. Instead, I made reindeer-shaped pancakes while my daughter wrapped presents for our neighbors. One gift had a tag that made me smile. Asterisk, to mom, from someone who finally puts you first. Sis. At 10 o'clock, Danielle called, crying. "Rachel, please. I didn't mean to leave you out. It was just, your daughter gets loud sometimes. Please help us 1 more month. I'll figure everything out." I waited until she finished crying. Then I answered quietly. "I paid your mortgage for 4 years, Danielle. The only thing I ever asked was for my daughter to be treated like family. You couldn't even give her 1 Christmas." Then I ended the call. That afternoon they finally read the agreement I had signed years earlier. Hidden inside was one simple clause. If I voluntarily stopped making the payments, ownership of the property would immediately return to me. They had missed the payment. The house was now legally mine. The next day my parents arrived at my front door. They brought no presents. They offered no apology. Only the same fake smiles they always wore whenever they needed something. My father cleared his throat. "This whole thing has been blown out of proportion. Danielle never meant to exclude you." Before he could continue, my mother crossed her arms. "Your daughter was loud," she said. "And don't forget she threw a tantrum last Christmas." I looked at both of them. For the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of disappointing them. "She was only 7, I said quietly. "You told her Santa skipped our house because he didn't like children who complained." Neither of my parents answered. They stared at the floor. They never expected me to remember. They never imagined I had been keeping track of every cruel little moment. "You made her feel like she didn't belong," I continued. "Every Christmas. Every birthday. Every family gathering." I took a slow breath. But this year was different. This year she felt loved. We baked cookies. We watched Christmas movies. We laughed until we couldn't breathe. And last night she said something I'll never forget. I walked to the fireplace and picked up the letter my daughter had written to Santa. It was covered in crooked handwriting and glitter. I handed it to my parents. Read, "Thank you for choosing me instead of them." My mother covered her mouth. My father couldn't look at me. I looked at both of them and said, "You wanted me to choose between being your daughter and being her mother. I chose my child. And that's why you lost." The fire crackled softly behind us while Christmas carolers sang somewhere down the street. For the first time in years, the silence felt peaceful. 3 days later, Danielle received a certified letter. The property title had officially transferred into my name. The agreement had always been simple. I had paid every mortgage payment for 26 straight months. If even one payment was missed, ownership automatically returned to me. Danielle skipped the next installment. The clause took effect immediately. Everything had been notarized from the very beginning. My lawyer once called it brutally efficient. I called it setting a boundary. Danielle called me 17 times that morning. I ignored every call. Instead, I took my daughter ice skating. Her laughter echoed across the rink as she spun across the ice without a single worry. She wasn't afraid to be herself anymore. That was worth more than any house. That evening my phone rang again. This time it was a group call. Danielle. I answered. Danielle was crying before I could even say hello. "You wouldn't really make us leave, would you? Please. This house is everything we have." Before I could answer, my mother cut in. "Rachel, this is childish. She's your sister. Family should come first." I stayed calm. "You're right," I said. "Family does come first. That's exactly why I'm choosing the family I created instead of the one that left my little girl standing outside on Christmas." Then I ended the call. The following morning, the eviction notice was delivered. That afternoon, my daughter handed me a drawing she'd made with crayons. It showed the two of us sitting beside the Christmas tree, wrapped in blankets with mugs of hot chocolate. Across the top she had written, "Best Christmas ever. Just this. Asterisk asterisk." I stared at that picture for a long time. For years I had grieved the family I wished I had. The perfect holiday photos. The happy dinners. The unconditional love. But the truth finally became clear. I wasn't missing anything. I had already built the family that mattered. It was quiet. It was safe. It was real. Later that evening I noticed Danielle had posted a picture online. She stood in front of the townhouse with folded arms and red, swollen eyes. Caption read, asterisk, "Some people don't understand loyalty, even at Christmas." Sis. My mother reacted with a heart. My father clicked like. I didn't argue. Instead, I posted a picture of my daughter smiling in her pajamas with whipped cream on her nose and a mug of hot chocolate in her hands. My caption was simple. "Some people mistake enabling for loyalty. I choose peace." The response surprised me. Friends reached out. Old classmates sent messages. Even distant relatives admitted they had watched my parents favor Danielle for years. One message from a cousin simply read, asterisk, "It's about time." Sis. Late that night Danielle sent one final text. "You win." A few days after Christmas I drove past the townhouse. Moving boxes covered the yard. Furniture sat on the porch waiting for the truck. Danielle stood quietly outside. She looked exhausted. My parents were sitting nearby. When they noticed my car, my mother hurried toward me, expecting another argument. Instead, I walked right past her. I stopped in front of Danielle. "You had a home," I said softly. "I paid for it. I protected it. I asked for only one thing in return. Treat my daughter like family. You couldn't even do that." Danielle lowered her eyes. She didn't say a word. I handed her an envelope. Inside was a check. Not for the house. Not for her mortgage. It was enough to cover her dog's veterinary bills. I knew how much that dog meant to her. "You'll need this," I said. Then I turned and walked away. Behind me my mother shouted, "You're abandoning your family." I looked back one last time. "No," I replied. "I'm finally accepting the truth." New Year's Eve arrived without invitations. No family group chat. No promises to start over. And honestly, I didn't miss any of it. My daughter and I curled up on the couch beneath a warm blanket, drinking hot cider while watching an old holiday movie. Outside, fireworks lit the sky. Inside, we laughed together. Then the doorbell rang. A delivery driver handed me a small package. Inside was a framed photograph from Christmas morning. It showed my daughter and me smiling beside the tree. There was no card. Only a small note attached to the back. Some families are built, not born. I never discovered who sent it. But I hung it in the hallway anyway. Because that picture reminded me of everything they tried to take from us. And everything they failed to destroy. My parents never apologized. Danielle never repaid me. Eventually I sold the townhouse. Every dollar of profit went into a trust for my daughter. She would never have to depend on people who treated her as if she didn't belong. One afternoon I watched her dance through the kitchen in mismatched socks, singing completely off-key with the biggest smile on her face. And in that quiet moment I finally understood. This wasn't revenge. This was freedom. This was peace. And this was the happiest ending I could have asked for.